Hi everyone, hope you're having a great day. Cardboard Box TV suggested that I try out the new Bora brush in Artstudio Pro. So why not? Let's give it a go. So when Cardboard Box said Bora brush, I assume he was referring to a brush created by the YouTuber Bora Dante, because there is a brush in the wet paint section of Artstudio Pro called Bora Dante. Now, I've been a follower of Bora Dante as long as I've been making YouTube videos. I subscribed to him early on. I really like his work. His technique is very similar to mine, or mine's very similar to his, depending on your perspective. But he paints very different subjects. He paints very macabre, dark subjects. Sometimes they're bordering on an horror theme, and other times they're not. They're just macabre. And he does a lot of book covers and things like that. I'll put a link to his channel below. But he's also developing his own app, his own painting app. But it appears he's got a brush in Artstudio Pro called Bora Dante. Now, I found that a bit strange because Bora Dante has always said that you should make your own brushes. You shouldn't use other people's. I disagree with that. I don't take that viewpoint. I think making a set of brushes to do watercolor, for example, you can share those with people and they can get great watercolor effects with them, the same as the person that's created them. So I guess he's probably changed his mind if he's allowed Artstudio Pro to put one of his brushes into the app, because it is a default brush in the app. I didn't have to hunt it down and look for it or anything. It's already available free within the app. So the old painting is done with the Bora Dante brush. Totally different style to his painting, because as I say, he does lots of character studies of sort of horror characters or macabre subjects. His last one was the clown from, was it the movie It or something? I'm not sure, but it was quite an horrible looking clown. Really good piece of artwork, but an ugly clown. Anyway, back to my painting. So this is very different. It's a landscape, and I'm just using the one brush, and the first thing I like about it straight away is it's got a real organic feel. So you whack up the size, and I was able to get that distant hill, and this is an estuary of where the river runs into the sea at Staithes, and I was able to get that distant green hill in the background in just by making that brush really big. And when you apply the brush strokes, if you put hardly any pressure on, it's a very light tint, and the more pressure on that you apply to the stencil, the more color that's applied and the darker it's applied. So if you put light pressure on, you can almost lift the color off, and I just love the brush strokes. So I was able to get that distant hill in really quick. So straight away I was thinking, yeah, I like this brush. And then I was able to shrink the brush down. Now I know Bora Dante says when you work with a brush, if you want to make thin strokes, do a bold stroke and then erase it down, or paint it away at the sides till you get the thin stroke you want, so that the brush appears as though the strokes are all sort of unified over the whole of the painting. I did that in one or two places, but a lot of the time I just resized the brush, and it's great because I like to get different textures with the same brush. I think you can make it look as though it's part of the same painting and not cut out and stuck on. If you work over the whole of the painting and not just paint one tiny little bit in with a fine detail brush, but you sort of apply it over the whole of the scene, then it works. So you'll see when I'm doing the boulders on that sort of wall that I am using a very thin brush to paint them on. a much smaller brush, and then I'll use much broader strokes for the sides of the buildings and so on, and then I'll make the brush smaller again to put the stonework in on the buildings. Artstudio Pro, I haven't used it in a while. I made quite a few videos using it a while back, and then for some reason I just put it to one side, and I don't know why, because it's a really cool app. I really like working with it. I think I'm going to start using it more often. They've got loads and loads and loads of brushes to choose from, absolutely stacks. So if you've not used Artstudio Pro, I do recommend you give it a go. I really like it. Another thing about Boro's brush was that it adds a slight texture to where you've applied the paint, as well, as though you are painting on a canvas, which I thought was quite good. I worked this on several layers. The boats I obviously painted on a separate layer, and then merged that down once I'd got them the right size and where I wanted them. I actually painted this, not the whole thing twice, but I'd kind of got all of the groundwork in just on one layer, and then realized that I hadn't actually started to record it, so I scrapped it and started again. So I didn't make quite fast progress initially, because I'd already sort of worked out in my head what was going to work with the brush. So it did come along quite nice. So now you can see I've shrunk the brush down, and I am, because you're using a wet brush, or a brush, or the Bora Dante brush is from the wet brush category. The colours just merged together really nicely, like you are working with wet paint. So it was great for that stonework on the cottage, and I can sort of blend colours in on the roof. I think that's probably what I'm going to do next. Yeah, there we go. And the colours just merge so nice. I mean, you've not got a thick paint look or anything like that. I think it's Lucky Clan develops this app. If you're listening, maybe a thick paint brush category would take this app to the next level and blow everything else out of the water. I'd love to see that in here. That would be really cool. But I say that about every app that hasn't got thick paint in it. So just sort of working along, I really enjoyed the fact that I went with sort of dark colours for this, and I loved the organic feel of the brush, and the way it worked equally as well as a small brush as it did a large brush. It's very different to it. I've been using the Nico rule brush in Procreate a lot recently, and it's very different to that. It doesn't you couldn't say, for example, put a sparkle on the water or anything like that. It hasn't got that kind of texture to it. I guess I could if I went in and fiddled with the settings, but I'm not. I like to use brushes in a way that the sort of are set up, really, rather than going changing them. If I changed them, I'd save it as a different brush, perhaps. I like using the color slider, where you've got the color and the saturation and the what's the third one, HSL, luminosity, I guess. It's really cool to pick the colors off that. That's how I was selecting the colors, using the sliders. I really like that, and I like the fact that they're on the screen all the time and at the side of the screen, so they don't kind of get in the way, but it's very easy. I was doing a combination of picking colors off the canvas with the stylus and selecting them off those sliders as well, so that was really nice, which well, there isn't a feature like that in Procreate, I know, because you can't put the color sliders on the side of the screen. I really like that about the app. Yeah, so, and I was working on, I have to say, it seemed to be it was more responsive than Procreate. It seemed to be faster. Quite often when I use, because my iPad's knocking on at my iPad Pro's getting on for 2.5 years old now, and I have started to notice that I do get a little bit of lag when I'm using Procreate, but in this I didn't. And I was using the same size canvas. This was a 24" by 16", or it might have been 20" by 16". I'm not too sure, but it was, you know, the same sort of size that I use in Procreate at 300 dots per inch, and there was no lag whatsoever. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with it. Notice I didn't take those flowers right down to the bottom of the canvas. I left some of the green below it because I felt you could, in the photograph, you could get a pair of scissors and cut them off. So I didn't want to do that. So there we are. That is it. That is my trying out of the Bora Dante brush. Really liked it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I've got lots of videos like this and I'd love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.